because I've seen that from a professional perspective, there is what we call personal financial management and financial management of business, and these are very much dynamic and they are very different. But I would like to applaud our speaker. He has tried. He managed to juggle the ball very, very well. And then I will also want to maybe comment and say, guys, what is very, very important, because when we look at the financial, when one looks at the financial statement, be it of a company or of a individual, the most important thing that will lie on top will be your land. Unfortunately, as people, as black people, or as we don't have land. So if you don't have land, you are going to pay rent. If you don't have land, you are going to pay for your vegetables because you can't farm. If you don't have land, you will basically pay for everything. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm not trying to be political or what. Guys, if we have got an opportunity of buying land, let us go for it, because it's one of the assets that doesn't depreciate. It might get revalued in future years at a surplus. So let us go for land, because a houses depreciate, buildings do depreciate, but when we look at land in most of the cases, it acquires some revaluation surplus. And then the last part will be on debt. I would like to say that debt, when you look at it, personal financial management, in most cases debt is not good. But now when you look at from a business perspective, debt, there is a point in time where debt becomes vital, and I would not want to give an umbrella statement and say that debt is good, but there is a point in time where debt is good, especially when you are considering, you want to engage in a project and you want to know how you want to see how to fund your project. Are you going to use your debt? Are you going to use your equity? So it's a process that involves feasibility studies and so forth. So before we actually dismiss debt as a bad thing, let us do our assessments. If you don't have the knowledge, there are professionals that can actually help you, obviously at a price and so forth. So let us not be dismissive of debt. Debt is good, but to a certain extent. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Arno. You did go over a minute there. So if Deborah, could you please just try and keep it shorter than Arno was long?
Okay.
Over to you, Deborah.
No problem. So I have a bit of a twist. So I want to know, in terms of the lotto, is this a lazy way of accumulating money? Is it a sin? That's all I want to say. Finish and clear. What is wrong with the lotto? And the lotto is in different ways. I know of an uncle of mine who gets money from the daily lotto. Is this a lazy way of accumulating it? Is it a sin? Is this a bad way of getting money?
Deborah, I almost thought you were going to say that your uncle won lotto. I was going to say that's very dangerous. People are going to be on your case hereafter. Olani, you've had the lotto. Is it good or bad? In fact, she's asking the question with a negative connotation by asking what is wrong, meaning that she's been told that it's wrong. Is it wrong? If it is, what exactly is wrong about it? Melissa, please go for it.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Melissa.
We've been talking about wealth and all those things, but now I want to bring it a little bit closer home as an Adventist young adult, a lady in particular. I'm on the road to making it. On the road, I'm still accumulating the wealth, and there's green light. But now the problem is, as far as courtship and marriage is concerned now, there's a problem there. The guys that I'll get, it's either they'll be targeting the wealth that they're seeing is coming, and the other will be like, the other guys will be afraid of approaching now, seeing the wealth that is coming. What best advice can you give to a person like me?
Okay, interesting there. Olani, you'll obviously answer that as well, but I want to also give a little bit of a comment on the marriage aspect of it when you're now dealing with it from a legal perspective. Olani, should I take the 2 remaining hands, or do you first want to address the ones that we have? We only have 2 at the moment because Arno was more of a comment. So we've got the lotto, and then we've got marriage. They're afraid to come to me because I'm wealthy.
Take the 2 remaining hands, please.
Okay. Sorry, guys. There's someone that I need to mute. If you can just bear with me, I must first find out who it is. Okay. Okay. The 2 remaining hands. We've got Zane, Zane, and Matandais. Please go for it, guys. Zane.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Kolani, for a well thought out presentation. I'm sure we won't be the same again after this powerful presentation. Well, my point has already been taken by Arnold. Guys, we need to have land. We need to have land. That's all that I can say for now.
Thank you so much. If we could keep it as short as he was, I think we're going to cover much ground. Matandais.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. How do we pronounce your name?
Matandis.
Matandis. Please go for it.
Yeah, I'm Tandi. Yeah.
All right.
I just want to ask Brother Kolani. So it's like he says, I have debts, and then I have money that I'm saving. So can I take all that money and pay off all the debts and start afresh? I'm afraid that something might happen. So I have money that I'm saving, but I'm deep in debt. So is it good to take all that money and pay off my debts and start afresh saving without debt? Thank you.
All right, Olani, over to you. Thanks, Tandi. Olani, are you still here?
I'm here. Okay, so I wanna just share a screen that will answer all these questions. Let me just quickly get to it. Where is it? There it is. There it is. Okay, so there's the debt one. There is the lottery one. There's the relationship one. Okay, so let's do this. I'm gonna share this screen, and then I'm going to, let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to start with there's a comment around good debt or profitable debt, and the point I want to do there is to just say that I don't think during the presentation we have dismissed debt altogether. I remember saying that I don't prefer calling debt good, but it can be profitable, and I gave a few examples around that. So let me just emphasize that. But again, when it comes to profitable debt, I must just caution a few things, right? So of course, profitable debt is a debt that you will use to buy items or assets, including a business, that generate income and generate cash that pays the debt and pays you. So that is profitable debt. I'm careful not to call it good. I'll call it profitable, right? And therefore, but the golden rule is that the income that you've generated must exceed all the costs associated with that debt. Otherwise, that debt can hurt you. But I must also then highlight that money is a tool, and let's agree on that. Money is a tool, and if you don't know how to use a tool, it can hurt you. So, for example, if you look at a hammer is a tool. It can help you to build something, etc., etc. But if you don't know how to use the hammer, it can hurt you. It can hit your fingers and hurt you. Debt also does that. While debt can be used to build, debt can also hurt you. And I've known so many businesses that have gone crazy on this so-called good debt, and now they are stuck with debt that they can no longer pay. That is why when you are analyzing a business, what you normally do is you look at their debt equity ratio to see how much of this business is financed through debt and how much of this business is financed through the owner's money. If the business has too much debt in it, you are now worried about the credit risk, the fact that what if they struggle to repay this debt? But number two, because the debt incurs interest, it means that in their pricing, so let's say you are selling pencils, Xolani, who doesn't have to recover the interest that he's paying on debt, his pencil may be a bit cheaper than yours. Your price of pencil must also accommodate the cost of debt. So when you start to have too much debt, it can hurt your business. So you want to have a balance, but we also worry about businesses that have little debt, because we are saying they are not taking advantage of debt to grow their business and expand it. But as I said, money is a tool, and if you don't know how to use the tool, it can hurt you. So all I'm saying is that if you're going to be using debt and try to call it good, for example, you've taken out debt so that you can buy a property that you are renting out, it is important that you have some emergency funds. Remember, the issue of emergency must also be applied to people with businesses and who are investors. Have an emergency fund so that if there are no tenants for 3 months, you don't default on your loan and become bankrupt because of debt. So those are the type of things. And you are seeing a lot of this now with COVID-19, that many businesses had overstretched them on this good debt, themselves on this good debt. And now when they don't have income for 30 days, they are finding themselves in serious trouble. So I'm just giving caution around that. And then I move to the issue of lottery, right? So we're speaking about lottery. I am not gonna dictate and say doing lotto is sin or it's not sin. I'm just gonna highlight a few things. Those who read the Bible a lot will tell you that gambling is not right. So that's fine. I'll leave it to them and they'll talk about that. But let me just highlight a few things about lottery, and it has to do with the way we think about money. Usually the money we have not worked hard for, our brains plan for it and treat it very differently. Think about when you get a bonus in December, that you are overspending on it some more, and then in January you are spending January with a W of worry. And it happens every time because our mindset, the money that we have not worked hard for, we think and plan for it very differently. It's a natural thing, and it has to do with mental accounting, where we look at money differently depending on what's the source of that money. And that is a serious trouble. And it happens also with lottery. If you were to go and Google the number of lottery winners who got broke in a short space of time, you will realize that there's just something funny about the way we think about lottery and think about bonus money that comes in without working for. And there are a few examples. If I take this lady, excuse the middle picture, but it is what I found on the internet. But if I take this lady, she won 33 million rands and she ended up in debt, and she says that lottery ruined her life. What about this one? She won 1.8 million pounds and she says that it ruined her life because she divorced her husband because she has money. But 2 years later, the husband found out this guy won 190 million rands. He committed suicide a few years later simply because lottery ruined his life. And of course, our friend from Zim, Patsirai, won 14 million rands. He went broke in 2 days. And then this guy, I'll call him Sanjeev, he won 10.5 million rands. He quit his job. 5 years later, he was arrested for breaking in to steal 250 rand. And I must put in a few details. He was a policeman when he quit his job. So it also then shows that the money that we have not worked hard for, we have a tendency of not planning it as well as the money that we've worked hard for. And it also applies with lottery. Whether lottery is sin or not, I would stay on the caution of avoiding gambling, because gambling is quite addictive. You actually end up using your last form of money because you can get addicted. Because remember, gambling keeps you thinking you are going to win. And you must understand the odds of winning the lottery. Out of the 13.9 million people who play, only one wins, which means the one who wins is winning the money of those who lost. And it's very addictive. And you've never seen an advert of lotto that says 13.9 million people have played, only one have won. All the adverts of Lotto are talking about winning. Men scoops 18 million rands after losing a job. It gets you to a point of so it plays on your mind and becomes addictive. I would avoid things that create addiction, and lottery is one of them. But whether it's sin or not, I'll leave it to theologians. I'm just a layman who is just a bean counter, but I don't like lottery. I don't like gambling. I think there's something addictive about it. I'd rather not do it. And then I moved to somebody who asked and said, well, I'm busy investing, but, or I'll come to the marriage one. Someone says, I'm busy investing, but I've got debt. And if you remember, when I was introducing the idea of the 4 things that must be there when we want to stand a better chance of building our wealth, I said that the order of things, and I know that it sounds counterintuitive, but I want you to go and crunch the numbers before you judge the order of things. The order of things must be this: manage your debt and get out of consumption debt. Build up an emergency fund. Take care of emergencies. Spend less than you earn. And only when you've done that, start investing. So let me give you an example. Let's say here is Zodwa. Zodwa wenkosi, not Zodwa wabantu. Here's Zodwa. Zodwa owes Z-Gas. We can't name names. She owes Z-Gas. I didn't say A, I said Z. She owes Z-Gas 5,000 rands. And her monthly repayment are 480 rands. She's left with 12 months to pay. Okay, so every month she's paying 480 rands for, and then the clothing account, its interest that is being charged is 27%. Okay, but because Zodwa is so good with money, she is also investing 750 rands every month on an investment that gives her returns, and she's very lucky. She's getting returns of 15%. Returns is the gain you are making in how your money is growing, the money you've invested. So on one side, she's paying interest of 27%. On the other hand, you know this thing of, I might be in debt, but at least invest. So she's covering her conscience. On the other hand, she's investing 750 rands. If you look at her net wealth position at the end of these 12 months, if you look at what she has gained, that's on what she has gained, the income that she's gained. Because remember, the money that she's paying to Z-Gas and the money that she's investing, that is capital. Wealth is what has that capital earned. The debt that she's paid, remember she owes 5,000 rands, and by the time it's 12 months, she would have paid 5,761 rand, which means she's paid an interest of 761 rand. On this side where she's investing, she's earned an interest of 645 rand. So if you look at how what she has gained in this exercise, she's gained a minus 115, because the math is saying your expense is 27%, your income is 15%. This is a minus. If Zodwa did something interesting, if Zodwa then said, you know what, I don't want to invest what I'm still in debt, especially consumption debt that charges you interest that is higher than the gains you can make in an investment. You rather kill that debt first, the consumption debt, not the profitable debt that's making you money, the other debt that's costing money. If she went and said, I want to take this 750 rands and stop investing and go and throw the 750 in this 480 so that I add the two and rather finish paying off this clothing account. And then when I'm done with consumption debt, I'm then going to invest. And here, let's use numbers, not emotion. Let's not use irrationality. Let's just use numbers. I mean, this is a numbers game. Let's use numbers. Look at what happens. She's taking 750, adds it to the 480. She finishes her debt in 5 months instead of 12 months. She finished. There's something exciting about finishing your debt. And sometimes these things are not about money. They're also about feeling good. It feels good to get out of debt. Now she's finished this in 5 months. She then takes this money, all of it, and adds it here. Look at what has happened. She's reduced. First of all, she's finished her debt beforehand. She's debt-free. If she were to die, her family won't owe anyone anything. So obviously, she's paid 305 rand in interest, but she's gained 329 rand in interest. So The difference between what she has paid and what she has gained is a positive difference. It looks like a small amount, but we build wealth by adding positive things, not adding negative things. In the previous one, it's a minus. It's a minus here, 115. In this one, it's a plus. And the point I'm demonstrating here is that if you are swimming in debt, especially consumption debt, rather forget about investing and rather put your money in here and kill your debts quite faster. Then you can invest. Because really, as I said, to invest while you are in debt, you are like a person who wakes up to go and exercise and then spend the whole day eating a makwing. You are actually reversing the good that you are doing. So, so that will be my suggestion. But this strictly applies to consumption debt whose interest rate is higher than the average returns you are making on your investment. All right, and then there was the issue about relationship, about people getting attracted to us because of our wealth. Look, there are many things that attract people to us, and I don't want us to demonize people who are attracted by wealth also, because if wealth is part of you, it is part of what's attracting me. I'm attracted to the whole package, but I think we must be careful about flaunting our wealth too much. Okay, must be careful about that. It doesn't mean that you must go out of your way now and be an undercover agent. Just be normal, but don't show off your wealth too much. Or if then your wealth is visible, have conversations about wealth, the thinking around wealth. Have conversation about what the other person is doing about their wealth. Have conversation about what they are thinking about wealth. What's their approach to wealth? You know, sometimes in our relationships, we are using chemistry too much. And I understand that when we get together, there is literal chemistry. There's a chemical that we release. I think it's oxytocin, the one that makes us feel good about everybody, to a point where we don't see the bad habits of people. So be aware. But I think if you are dating someone, you must constantly hide your true self, because your wealth is part of who you are. This thing of going out of your way to hide. If you are dating someone where you must constantly hide your true wealth, then you are dating the wrong person. You know, you must date the person you are both comfortable with it. And there's 58 million people. You will find people. You'll find a person who's not only attracted to you because of your wealth, but guys, wealth is part of who we are. So if it also attracts me, it attracts me. So yeah. But have conversations about wealth, have conversation about how we're going to treat wealth. And then lastly, if you are really concerned, and I hope you're not going to marry someone you are concerned about when it comes to wealth, but we also need to think differently about our marriage regimes, how we structure our marriages. The marriage contract is not a spiritual matter. It is a matter of assets and liabilities, and that's it. It's not an emotional and spiritual matter. The spiritual matter is what God has put together. No one must put asunder. The spiritual matter is the issue of love, and everything else is risk management for the purposes of assets and liabilities. If we were to divorce the two, we will then even structure our marriages, our unions, in the way that makes financial sense, that makes risk sense for the type of people that are getting together. We must also not spiritualize that idea. It's a legal matter. The spiritual matter is what the pastor is doing, and how you are treating your spouse, your morals and things like that. I'm gonna leave that one there.
Thanks. Let me just jump in there, Gangane.
These are not answers, these are responses.
Yeah, maybe let me also just jump in on the relationship side from a legal perspective. I've realized in practice that we have transactional relationships. In fact, at some point in time, we had an issue on the family law side of things, where a young lady would go and disturb a very beautiful marriage between a well-established couple, and often, in fact, it was a mess, because often the wife would be a government employee belonging to the government employee's pension fund. And this young lady would then come in and enter into a relationship with the husband, and then cause the husband to divorce the wife. and they'll target people that are married in community of property. And they know that once they divorce the wife, then they're going to claim for half of the pension fund to be paid out and whatever other assets are at stake. And once that has happened, this young lady will then take all those benefits or those assets and then disappear. Leave the poor man, he's now broke and he's without a family. And now he must try and go and make things right with his wife. And the reason why I want to talk about this, when we talk about relationships, and you've made it very clear that when you talk about the marriage contract, separate spirituality and realize that it's very much an asset and liabilities thing. Furthermore, even if, Kolani, we were to say that it's a spiritual matter, if the spiritual aspect of it is aimed at preventing selfishness, you need to realize that getting married in community of property could actually be selfish, because it comes with certain consequences. If you're sequestrated, or if you're running a business and the business is liquidated, you're pulling your family into that. You need to understand that the law has different matrimonial property regimes. You've got marriage in community of property, you've got marriage out of community of property, and you've got marriage out of community with accrual, which is what I often advise people. Even if you're a Christian, go for marriage out of community and then put in the accrual system. It gives you both the benefits of being married in community. It also gives you the benefit of being married out of community. It protects you from third parties. It protects your assets. It protects your liabilities. So you need to consult properly before you engage into these things. So for someone like Melissa, you're worried that no, the brother is now going to be coming in there for your wealth. There is still ways of protecting that. And always remember that you refusing to get married in community of property, it's not that. And you'll hear Christians say, oh, so that means you're getting ready to divorce. No, that's not the case. Remember, dissolution of marriage, it includes divorces, but it's not limited to divorces. Marriages are dissolved through divorce, or you could die. A lot of things, I mean, those two things could happen. Now you die, and then your family suffers from the consequences of the matrimonial property regime that you chose. And that's very much being selfish. So if the Christian principle is aimed at running away from being selfish, then getting married in community can actually be very, very selfish at certain instances. So let's keep all those things in mind. It's always important that we consult extensively, and I think we've got Brother Kolani here. We can always hit him up. There's obviously going to be some chankuras thereafter. It's a Sabbath today. We've given him for free. And Brother Kolani, there was also, I think, one last comment before you give us the deliverables overall on what we've discussed today. There's a brother here who said, what is the takeaway message for those people that are in desperate debt at the moment? And I see the slide that I took out was actually, it was showing some of those things from the National Credit Act, and you had already touched on some of them: debt consolidation, debt review, phone the bank. There's nothing wrong. Put your pride aside, take back the property. From a law perspective, again, I'm going to jump in there. If there's a judgment already against you, you will never be cast into prison for owing. We've passed that stage. The case law is settled. No one is going to put you into prison for owing. And if your creditors have obtained judgments against you, but you cannot afford, there is a court for that. I think Section 65 of the Magistrates Court Act says they will do an entire financial inquiry. They'll want your bank details. They want a list of your assets and liabilities. They want a list of your expenses and your income. And then the court will be able to restructure, see how much you have, how much you can afford to pay back. So there's a whole lot of ways that you can get around it if you are still in it. Kolani, I don't know if you want to touch on that as well. I know you had already touched on it earlier. You are muted. You're saying powerful stuff, Mara. We can see you.
No.
Muted.
I was muted because I wasn't saying it. No, I'm saying you've covered it well, and I think it's exactly that. That is when you go for those options that we said are the last options. But the option you must never go for is the option of avoiding calls. This idea of you avoid private numbers. Once you start avoiding your creditors, they're going to have to hire people to search for you. And remember, they are not in the business of searching for people. They must hire people to search for you. And the day they find you, you must pay for the people they hired to search for you. So don't avoid them. Rather, use the other avenues of debt counseling, debt review, and maybe debt consolidation and all those other things. But also spend some time and talk to your creditors and tell them what you are able to afford or not. Really, really talk to them, because they've already raised their provision in their books. I'm telling you right now, it's already in their books. When you come and talk to them, you are actually getting the accountants very excited, because they say, you know what, this debt is no longer doubtful. The person did arrive and we've got an arrangement now. They're excited about that, because the last thing they want is to hire someone to look for you, is to hire a lawyer to collect from you. If you come yourself, you'll be surprised that you'll find out. But there's other avenues that Ashley has spoken about, and I really, really say use those avenues. So I think you've covered it, so I'm not going to speak more about that.
Thank you so much. Xolani, give us deliverables in a few minutes. Overall, let's cover this up. Thank you so much, guys. You guys have been far too wonderful. Xolani, just give us your deliverables, and then we'll hand over to the team for announcements and the programs to follow. Thanks, man.
Okay. So I don't have like deep deliverables to talk of, and maybe that is the deliverable. The issue of finances is not as complicated as we make it out to be. It's not full of jargons, it's not full of anything. One thing that's important is that be honest about your situation, be honest about your background, and don't be hard on yourself. The reason why I shared with you that the average millionaire is only 57 years old, it should be telling you that let me pace myself, let me not rush into things. And the other thing that I want to just say is, let's rather produce before we consume. And let's stop competing in the spaces of consumption. If we must compete, if we must exercise peer pressure, let's exercise it on production. And then the other thing that I must say again is that wealth and money is meaningless until you apply meaning to it. So maybe let's go and look at our values. Let's go and look at what is important to us, and then send money to that, as opposed to comparing your values with other people's values. You'll be surprised. What really makes you happy is not that expensive. If you really dig into it, you'll be very surprised. And then lastly, let's acknowledge that our money problems are not always problems of money. There's something to do with our thinking. There's something to do with our emotions. And can I just suggest 2 books? Because this thing of emotions and thinking is deep, that these lectures are meaningless if you have not sorted the way you think. And it's not something that we are always aware of. So I'm going to suggest 2 books that I'm going to say, go and read, that talk about the impact our thinking and our emotions have on our spending. And I'm telling you, when you've read these 2 books and you've dealt with your thinking, you've dealt with your emotion, I promise you, you won't need another lecture after that. And these are the 2 books that I'll suggest. The first one is, I hope you can see it. It's called Predictably Irrational. There it is. This book will teach you about how lazy your brain is and how irrational your brain is and how silly your financial decisions are because of the way you think. And I want to suggest that you go through this book, and it's going to teach you how to deal with the way you think. It does have to work. And of course, if you are a person who's deep in philosophy and deep in psychology, very difficult book to read. But if you've got energy, this is the best guy, Daniel Kahneman. Very good guy.
I think we've lost him
there. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow. Very good book. Very good book. I'll suggest you go and read those 2 books. And when you've taken care of that, and leave you with a very simple verse which talks about our mindset, how important it is. It's found in Proverbs chapter 25, verse 28, or is it 28, verse 25? Just those. It says this. It says a person who lacks self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. And I want you to think about this. Imagine an unfenced house. It says if you lack self-control, you are like an unfenced house, an unfenced city. Now, if you've got fencing, it means you have a gate that regulates who comes in, who gets out. If you're not fenced, even goats can come in and eat and eat from your garden. Now, what is the Bible saying? It's saying that if you don't have self-control, if you don't have a gate that decide when to buy and when not to buy, when to spend and when not to spend, you'll actually be like a city that's left without walls, which means nothing regulates when to spend, when not to spend. I would suggest that you spend more time rebuilding the walls around this city, and you'll be surprised if you were to change the way you think about what money means. It does have the job. I really want to emphasize that more than steps out of debt and steps into investment, it's all here, and it's all here. I'll stop.
Guys, we've been at it for 3 hours and 18 minutes now. We need to give Xolani a break. Xolani, thanks so much, brother. I guess I speak on behalf of everyone when we say this was very insightful, and I trust and hope that we've all learned something from here. Personally, I've really